It's Sunday night, time for Pro Prep Baseball. I'm Ken Arnold.
I'm Tommy Weber.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to get into it tonight. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things, Webbs. We're going to talk about Ichiro. We're going to talk about Trout's new contract. We're going to talk about the Izzo situation in college basketball. And we're going to talk a little bit about your favorite subject, catching. Which
I love catching.
We did it today at practice, and I love it too. I love working with the catchers, and I love to see when they improve and them gain confidence behind the plate and know that they are the leader out on the field and they can take charge and they're in control of the game essentially. And to give them that control too as well is it's cool because a lot of coaches take it away from them. They don't give it to them. So that's we've talked about that many times.
Yes.
And we'll get into that. I see we're on YouTube going good right now. Let me just check Facebook just to make sure that we are up and rolling. And we are. And let me invite a couple people, see if I can't get Renee to get on here and our faithful folks.
All three of them.
All three of them that we get in. Actually, some of the coaches that I coach with are actually watching. They started to watch as well. Yeah, and they've watched the older versions of it to see what we had discussed in the past about different things.
So Ken, I'm going to jump in. I want to start with something that we didn't even talk about. So I'm watching two big time college teams. I have players on both teams yesterday, right? So the college game is hard to watch on TV because the pace is not like the major league game. They have all day to play. They don't have commercial breaks. So it's really, it's kind of hard to watch. But anyway, I'm looking for my guys and I'm trying to hang in there. So when I see my guys, I could just see them. It's nice to see them.
Sure.
So it's the second inning. The team I'm watching is home with a 3-0 lead. Second and third, one out. No, it's 3-3. They tie it up 3-3. So there's a lot of runs going to get scored in this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to figure. Runs aren't going to be at a premium. Number 3 hitter up, second and third.
Okay. He
looks into the dugout. He then looks on his utility belt that they all wear these.
What is it? Was he Batman?
Catchers.
He has a utility belt.
Yes. I'm not exaggerating.
Okay.
They have this thing they open on their belt like a quarterback would have.
Sure.
And it has, I guess, the signs because he doesn't look down the third base. Just imagine how convoluted this is. Now it's second and third. He's the number 3 hitter. It's a 3-3 game, one out. I'm not really sure what sign you can give them, but I found out on the next pitch, they try a suicide squeeze.
With the number 3 hitter in the
yes.
What inning was it?
Second.
Okay.
2.
Your number 3 hitter.
It's a 2 inning.
Your number 3 hitter.
The 2 inning, number 3 hitter up. 3 up, 2 inning, 3-3. So 6 runs have already been scored.
Okay.
So thank God for them. He fouls the ball off, which I'm sure the coach will go over on that stupid left field meeting that takes 40 minutes. Why he didn't get the bunt down.
Sure.
Okay, that's going to be something they'll talk about. Not why I was so stupid in calling for the squeeze.
Yeah.
Sure enough, he pulls his coach's bacon out, and he really helps him out a great deal, and hits a little looper on the next pitch into left field, and it scores 2 runs.
Yes. Which is, we should have just let the guy hit anyway.
Right.
He's arguably the best hitter in your lineup, the 3 hitter.
Right.
That's where you put that
guy.
It's
the second inning.
Yeah.
It's the second inning.
What?
And if the bunt doesn't work, you now have 2 outs, second and third. Next guy hits a fly ball. You score no runs.
Yeah.
What you do while bunting is you make sure you're not going to have a big inning. That's what you do. Because even if the bunt works, you're going to score 1 run. Yeah.
No, I like the bunt late in the game for certain reasons. Early in the second inning, yay! Let's hit 15 minutes of doubles. How about we do that?
Right, that's what I was thinking. Number 3 hitter comes up, gets a base hit. Next guy hits. If somebody makes an error, all of a sudden it's a 6-run inning.
Yeah. So
suicide squeeze.
Your number 3 hitter comes up and hits a 3-run homer.
I'm going to go as far as to say this.
How about that?
If you have your 3-hitter up in the second inning and you're not facing Randy Johnson, it's nothing, and you figure you need a run, you got to scratch a run across, there is no excuse for the suicide squeeze in that situation. None. I'm sorry.
No, not in that situation.
That's trying to fix something that's not broken.
Yeah. Later in the game, and you're facing their closer, and like you said, you got to scrape and you got to scrap. Yeah, why not? Or even in like you said, you're facing Randy Johnson, and the chances of you scoring any runs in that game are slim. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
No feel. No feel.
No feel for the game is what you're saying. All right, Renee's on, and he's laughing out loud at balls in the dirt, and the catcher has the ball, and the runner is out at the plate. Yes, that would happen on a suicide squeeze right there, and it is.
And you just ran yourself out of an inning.
Out of an inning, and I've seen that way too often. Hey, did you see that thing that since Danny Ford jumped on? Hey Dan, did you see that game where the old Butcher Boy won the game for him in the?
That was Danny's kid.
Yeah, it was amazing. I love that play. That's a Tom Haines special. I love that.
And
play.
I'll tell you what. I said this to Danny. I spoke to him. Mm-hmm. I do that drill when a guy's struggling to teach a guy how short you can be and still make solid contact. If you watch without knowing it, his kid has good mechanics anyway. But by doing that, you ostensibly force yourself to have perfect mechanics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because instinctively now you're just trying to scramble. And all of a sudden you're just looking to make contact. All of this lifting and home run hitting and all this other stuff is out of play. You're just looking to take the fat part of the bat and make contact onto the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I did that in spring training one time, and I got pulled aside and said, don't do that again. Because I hit the ball so hard to we were scrimmaging, inter-squad. And I hit the ball so hard past like one of the guys charging that they were like,
"Oops,
yeah, don't do that against your own team." I did it. Right. Don't do that against your own squad. You can do it against anybody else. Just don't do it against us. Because I hit the ball so hard, it just missed him. It just went right by his head. I was like,
the preoccupation with power has really taken away from the game a lot of those things that could be effective tools that help teams win games.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great tool. I love that tool.
I think it's a great play.
I used it at the professional ranks. I can remember 2 or 3 times in my career where I used it, and it was effective, especially on AstroTurf. I played on an AstroTurf field, and just chop the ball into the AstroTurf and just go.
Yep.
And leg it out. It bounced right over the infielder's head, the charging infielders. All right, so let's talk about this guy, Webbs. This guy who came into the league in 2001, and in his first season, not only was he the Rookie of the Year, but he also won the MVP that season. How about that guy right there? And I mean, he went on to have over 3,000 hits in his 19-year career, not counting the 8 years he played in Japan, which is phenomenal as well, because that's not an easy league, the Japanese league.
No, it's not.
No, that's a pretty
Ichiro,
good league.
Ichiro is on my all-time team. If of players that I have seen,
yep.
He's not. I'm not talking about guys I have not seen. Babe Ruth and May. I really didn't. I saw Mays and Mantle, but at the very end of their career. I'm talking about guys I saw play as a conscious watching observer of baseball. Ichiro is on my starting all-time team. He is one of the most complete players that I have ever seen. He could do everything, and he did everything almost great.
And
he's the greatest fundamental outfielder
absolutely.
that I have ever seen.
That's what I was just going to add in, that he fundamentally did everything. And he did it with no fanfare. He did it very quietly. He just went out and played. Now, I don't even think if he spoke better English that he would have been more of a outspoken person or player anyway. I think that was just his demeanor. Go out, play the game, play it the right way, play it hard every day, and let what he did speak for itself.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing too. I mean, the Asian player is just from a different culture that doesn't, they're not they don't showboat, and they're not particularly emotional on the field, and it's just a very, very different culture, and they respect the game a great deal. I happen to know I have two guys, Braden Bishop, who's Hunter Bishop's brother, and Matt Fester, who pitched for me in the ACBL, are both with the Seattle Mariners on the big club right now.
Yeah.
So I've been talking with them on a regular basis, and they say, first of all, Ichiro's English is better than he lets on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And they say that they've never seen a guy in more perpetual motion than Ichiro. He's always doing something. Whether it's stretching, running, throwing, hitting, fungo. He is constantly at his craft. And I'll tell you what, for all these crazy people that want to spend a fortune on lessons, if your kid's an outfielder, you don't need to spend a nickel. Just get YouTube videos of Ichiro Suzuki. There are millions of them. I have a load of them on my phone. And break down what he does and do it exactly like he does over and over again, and you'll be just fine. He has perfect mechanics.
And the way he speaks, the way he hits is phenomenal, because it's not the way that they're teaching nowadays. It's not,
I love how he hits.
The way he hits.
It.
One pitch, he'll sit back and he'll just turn on it and try to take it deep.
Yep.
Another pitch, he'll just try to drift forward and just try to slap it to the left side of the infield. I mean, the way he hits is just it in and of itself is an art form to watch him hit and the style that he hits in.
What I'm afraid of is, sadly, that I don't know that the game has room for Ichiro Suzuki anymore. I mean, we're more enamored with the Kyle Schwarbers of the world and the Chris Davises of the world, and the Mark Trumbos of the world, than we are the artists, the geniuses. He's a brilliant, brilliant player. I mean, history's going to be kind to a guy like that. You know, he is just a real credit, not only a credit to the game, a magnificent player, a game-changing player.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than seeing Ichiro, and even he got a little fooled sometimes when he was up to bat.
Of course.
But to see him like be out on his front foot and still keep the bat head back and then just flip it over the shortstop's head, that's a thing of beauty.
I love it.
You know, instead of just reaching back every time and swinging out of your butt and, you know, landing on your back knee and striking out 200 times a year. The dude had 262 hits in one season, Tommy. Broke the record. 262 hits. Who doesn't want a guy with 262 hits in a 162 game season? That's more than, it's like 1.5 hits per game. It's amazing. It's amazing what he accomplished.
You know, he steal 50 bases, hit 360, get 250 hits, play great defense, beat you in every single way. Just a one-man wrecking crew if you have him in the top of your lineup. Great, great player, and I really believe baseball will sorely miss his type, because nobody's even encouraged to play that. You know, in order to hit like that, you got to be real nimble and really athletic. That takes great timing, great athleticism, and a real nimbleness that people don't like to talk about in hitting anymore. So I think it's going to be a long time before we see a guy like that again.
Yeah, and I watched a short documentary on him. They just did a piece like on Baseball Tonight or something 2 years ago, I think it was. And they followed him when he was back in Japan getting ready for the upcoming season. And just
throwing the balls?
Yeah, and just his regiment, just the stuff that he does, his day.
Yep.
Because he also, you know, he is a corporation. In and of it, you know, he is. So he has business things he has to attend to, and then he has the baseball and the workouts and the food that he eats, and everything is just boom, 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 boom. And like you said, perpetual motion. He's constantly going. He's constantly doing. He does not stop. He's going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And you have to have a formula, a pattern. You get into a routine, and that's how you achieve consistency and greatness.
He's also a guy that the next time anybody says you can't run out every ground ball, you should just refer to him, because he did it for 26 years, whatever it was.
Right.
He ran hard on every single ball, and the reason is because he took great pride in his conditioning and the shape that he was in, and he was prepared to play hard every single day, every single night, and he did.
Yep, a guaranteed lock, first ballot Hall of Fame.
Oh, if he,
guaranteed.
I mean, I have to say, I mean, I'll I'll make enemies right now. He's a better player than Mariano Rivera was. I mean, if Mariano Rivera is 100%, Ichiro Suzuki has to be 100%.
Yeah,
that's why nobody should have been 100%, because now you've opened up that can of worms. But anyway, God bless him. I love that guy.
Yeah, I love him too. You know, and I actually brought him up the other day in practice, and guess what? All the players knew who he was. All the guys I had on my field knew who he was. I was shocked. I was like, you know who he is? Who does he play for? Seattle. I was like, oh my God. Because, you know, I was going to start questioning him. I thought that they were just going, oh yeah, we know who he is, coach. No, they knew. And I thought it was great that they knew. They knew who he was, who he played for. You know, that was great. That was pretty cool. So what do you think about this, speaking of guys who run the ball out hard every time, what about this guy, Mike Trout, getting $423 million from the Angels? What about that?
Well, you know, Artie Moreno has a lot of money to throw around. He has thrown around a lot of I wouldn't have done it. Yeah. Look, I've said this before. I don't care how you are is irrelevant to me. It's how much mileage you have on you. And mileage in sports is how many years have you played. Mike Trout's going into his 9th year. I don't care if he's 22. He's got 9 years under his belt. So they're not going to be a relevant team for 3 years at least. They're bad. They're a really bad team.
They're not good.
So now you're in Mike Trout's 12th year. You got to pay him close to $40 million in his 13th to 21st year. Wow. I don't know. I don't know a lot of great players, not counting the steroid era, whose productivity was at the top of the market for any long period of time after 13 or 14 years. That's all I'm saying. And he plays hard. And you know what? I don't want to hear about DH, because if you want to pay a $40 million DH, be my guest. And he's a guy who gets nicked up a little bit. You know, last year he got hurt a little bit. And I would, if it were me, I would have tread water. And when the free agent market came up, I would have given him I would have given him a great deal, and seen how the next 2 years go. You know, you develop a couple of players, and look, I think what people have to realize is that in I think it was 99 or 98, 2 players who I believe were better than Mike Trout by a lot, and I'm saying that, you know, Alex Rodriguez and Ken Griffey Jr. were on the Seattle Mariners, and the Seattle Mariners got rid of both of them.
I remember that.
The following year,
in
2001,
yeah,
they set the league record for games.
Yeah, yep.
So, you know, if they could do that, it should be the lens through which you value a guy like Mike Trout. Yeah. I'm sorry. Is he a great player? Yes. Is he somebody that you want to go watch play? Absolutely. But, you know, it's like anything else. You know, I want a loaf of bread, but I'm not going to pay $75 for that loaf of bread. It stops being something I want when it starts to be outpriced. And I think that's too much money to pay for a guy who's already got 9 years under his belt.
Sure. Joe Russo came on and said, can he achieve greatness if he eats the spicy rigatoni from Carbone every day?
No, but if he has the sardines that I had at Coco Pazzo last month, then he might be able to do it.
All right. Renee points out that his stats, Trout's stats, his first 6 years are better than some of the greats in the game. Some of the guys
that's true.
You know, like Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and Barry Bonds, and his numbers over his first 6 to 8 years are better, which is true.
Okay.
But like you said, do you lock somebody up for that long? You know, if I'm running an organization, like you said, probably not. I wouldn't give anybody a 10-year deal for anything. Not in baseball. Not in baseball. I'd give him a 5, and I'd pay him there. I'd overpay him for 5.
And here's another thing about Mike Trout. He's anonymous. He's not a star. He's not someone who puts more people in the seats. He's not someone who sells the most jerseys. He was 11th in jersey sales last year. Mm-hmm. He plays in relative anonymity in the West Coast. Most people don't get to see him play. So his value has to be a value that is translated in potential wins and a championship. And he's played in 3 playoff games, and they've lost them all in 9 years.
Yeah, and his popularity needs to be universal for the business of Major League Baseball to make money off of Mike Trout, right?
Correct.
So you're selling jerseys and Mike Trout stuff and California Angels stuff, because that translates not just to Mike Trout, but it translates to the entire league and every other player that's in the league. So, you're right. He plays in California. If he played in New York, it'd be a different story. He played in Philadelphia.
The numbers don't lie. The numbers. You can't be 11th in jersey sales and tell me you have this value above and beyond what it is you do on the field. You're not a revenue generator. And I gave my graduate school class a very interesting assignment the other day because we talked about this. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want you to do research on a guy and give me your opinion as to what his value would be. Now, he didn't play for very long, but he was an attraction. They packed the ballpark every single night he pitched,
and
doubling their attendance. Mark the Bird Fidrich.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, now that's a guy, you can't pay him enough money because every time he pitches, he's doubling your attendance. He's like the freak show. Yeah. People from all over want to see this guy. Had he sustained any length in his career, he would have been a guy that made a fortune. And if he was playing today,
oh my God,
I mean,
they would lock him to a 10-year contract. They would pay him for 10 years.
But at least they'd be able to point to numbers that exceed what they normally get. He's bringing in more revenue than they get on Tuesday night because he's pitching on Wednesday night. Okay, there's a justification for paying him over and above the fact that you like how he plays.
Yeah.
I keep hearing people tell me how good Mike Trout is, to which I say, so what?
Yeah. The attendance is the same. The TV ratings are the same.
Right. And they don't win.
Yeah. And you're not winning baseball games.
And they don't win.
You're not winning games. Kids aren't running around New York City wearing Mike Trout jerseys. Very few.
They're not.
No.
They're not.
And maybe they are out in Anaheim, but they're not in Chicago. They're not in Texas. They're not in Boston. So that's the difference. So Renee said he has no social media presence. Well, that may be true, but that's where we're at too. You got to have a social media presence, which is ridiculous. It's almost as large as our social media presence, Tommy. I'm just saying.
Well,
our stuff.
It's not even. And here's the thing. Mike Trout doesn't need to have his own social media presence. He should have someone from the Angels managing his social media. It's part of your PR.
Hire somebody
as a player
with your $423 million, or have the Angels hire somebody. But get it done. Get out there.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
Do whatever you got to do. All right, moving on from that guy. Screw that guy and his $423 million. Let's talk about.
I would like to say one last thing, though.
Go ahead.
I heard numerous people say, not only is it, Eduardo Perez said it really shows you what kind of guy Mike Trout is, that he would leave that much money on the table and accept $430 million. To which I said, dial 911, Eduardo Perez needs his head examined, because unless you're, I don't know, curing some terrible disease.
Yeah.
The words "he makes $430 million and underpaid" should never be in the same sentence.
No, not at all.
That is really insulting.
I was laughing tonight when I was listening to MLB Tonight. They were talking about, well, this contract is going to solidify him for the rest of his life and his family, but the next one he signs is for future generations down the line. $423 million isn't going to do that for you. If you invest it correctly, you're never going to have to. Your family will never have to worry about anything forever if you do it right.
Right.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Generations down there. Shut up. Whatever. You won the lottery.
The economic and financial illiteracy exhibited by people that are commentators and who are message makers in sports is mind-boggling.
This was the former GM of the Cleveland Indians in the 90s. What the hell's his name? He said it.
Mark Shapiro?
Was it him? No, it was the other guy. The other guy.
Oh, the guy on MLB?
John Hartman.
Hart.
John Hartman.
John
Hart.
Hart.
Yeah. That guy. He said it. And I'm just what is he talking about? The generational thing about the money. I'm like, wait, you gave him $423 million guaranteed money. He's not going to have to worry about anything. His kids, their great-grandkids, they're never going to have to worry about anything if you invest that money correctly. You know, what are we just throwing it around like it's, whatever. People crack me up. It's insane. It's insane. I will say this, though. I do think the Houston Astros did the right thing by signing Justin Verlander to a 2-year deal for $66 million. I think he's worth that, especially because they will be in contention for the World Series again this year. They'll be in the playoffs. They will be up against the Red Sox to make it to the World Series. I think that's $33 million well spent for 2 years. 2 years, that's it.
I think Verlander is the most important player on their team. Verlander is the reason they won the World Series 2 years ago. They would not have won that World Series without him. For all of their, progressive, managing style and analytics and data and advanced data, if they don't pick up that horse, that good old-fashioned 9-inning complete game kind of guy, they do not go to the World Series. They don't even get to the World Series. Forget about winning the World Series. So I still think he's their most important player. If he doesn't have, if Justin Verlander doesn't make all his starts and pitch very well, the Houston Astros will not win, no matter what Altuve, George Springer, Correa, and anybody else does on that team. He is the most important player on that team.
I agree.
And they can win. And they can win. So, they're putting all their chips in, into the middle of the table because they can win. The Astros have, the Angels have no chance. Yeah, they're terrible.
No, the Astros, their stadium will be full every night because they're winning, and their TV revenue will be up because they're going to get a lot of national games. They're going to be on MLB Network quite a bit because they are good. So, yeah, to pay him $66 over 2, I'm not a problem with it at all. I think it's amazing. And I think the Astros, well, like I said, will be in the World Series or at least the AL Championship to get into the World Series. So enough about money because I don't have any, and it kind of pisses me off now. I wish I had more than what I have. But anyway, this guy Izzo, let's talk about that. College sports. We're going to switch up to basketball, college basketball for a minute. But it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about how coaches handle players. And if you want, Tommy, because I really didn't pay attention to it because I was like, it wasn't much of a story to me. But, I dove into it a little bit, and I'm like, oh, my God, really? People were freaking out about that? So if you could fill us in a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it. I don't watch March Madness. To me, it's the March Madness is just another sign of how corrupt the NCAA is, and But in any event, I was just keeping up on current sports events, and I saw that he went after a player, and he went after him pretty hard, and he screamed at him on the court and challenged him on the court, and then he challenged him in the huddle when and the players were sort of intervening on the kid's behalf and on Izzo's behalf, and it was testy as sometimes things get, but the aftermath and the backlash was really interesting in that people were, shocked and is Tom Izzo going to get fired? In the press conference afterwards, I give him a lot of credit. He stuck to his guns and said, that this is, part of the problem of society is that, we don't expect people to be accountable. When you go to work at your job, you're held to a certain account, and other people count on you, and sometimes in the heat of battle, it gets, ugly, and people yell at each other, and that's the way it is. Now, it's not, and it's not my style, unless it's the opposition. Usually my wrath is at umpires and the opposition. I have a different style with players, but I have to say this, it really is, I find it curious that so many people, so many parents on social media ripped him. And I think it shows how soft we've become and how little we want our kids to experience anything that's negative. And I give Michigan State and I give Izzo a lot of credit for, standing by what he did and saying, hey, listen, we give our kids a lot of independence, and when that happens, they get to voice why. And sometimes it doesn't look pretty, but that's the way it is in life. And he's right.
No, I agree. And there was one thing that I saw that stood out to me. One of the commentators from ESPN, the bald guy, he does the night show. I can't remember anybody's name.
Jay Billis. Is that Jay Billis?
Yeah. So not Jay Billis. The other guy. He looks like Jay Billis, but it's
yes, I know the guy you're talking about. ESPN. Well, he's a host.
Yes, he came on, and Scott Patrick. No, I don't know.
Dan Patrick.
Yeah, not Dan Patrick, because he's not bald. The bald guy. But anyway, the point is, he came on and said, "Look, this is our family, right? The basketball team is our family." Van Pelt. That's right, Scott Van Pelt. He said it. And sometimes families, what do?
Fight.
They argue. They fight. Right?
They fight.
It's the way they handle their problems, right? And then guess what? 5 minutes later, everybody's okay, right? The kid who he was yelling at didn't complain. Other players from Michigan, current and former, were like, I don't have a problem with that. That's, I've gone through that. Things are tough in this world. Things are hard. Things, nothing is, it's not all unicorn shit. And sorry, did I say that out loud? Am I allowed to say that on the show?
Yeah. Yeah, right? You said it.
Said it. I did say it. It's not unicorn and rainbows, right? It's not. It's sports. It's competitive. People get testy, right? I've had that happen. I've had that happen to me. I've gone after people, and people have come after me, And 5 minutes later, we're fine. After the game, we're fine. We might have a conversation about it, but we, in the heat of the battle, that's what happened. And then now it's over. We move on from there. Nobody's feelings were hurt. Nobody was upset. Nobody got offended. We worked through it. So,
yeah, I just think that people, we've got to the point now where people really believe their job is to ensure that a kid never experiences anything negative. I mean, anything. And that their job is to make sure that if they're on the verge of experiencing something negative, it's their job to step in and ensure that they don't experience that. There's the new term they call bulldozer parents now, where they're bulldozing a path in front of their kids. And I think Van Pelt said, what did he say? You prepare the kid for the path, not the path for the kid.
Exactly.
And look,
exactly.
Let me just say this with all due respect, okay? With all due respect. We could sit here and say, exactly, but the reality is that almost everybody, you can't escape the culture, almost everybody is a culprit in this. We are all way, way, way too concerned with the safety and well-being of children. That's long and short of it. I'm sorry, that doesn't sound good, but that's the reality. We are so concerned that our kids are scared to death. They think they're stupid. They think they're incompetent. They're anxiety-ridden, and so are we. So all of this care and all of this patting ourselves on the back for how much we care about the safety and well-being of our kids is resulting in anxious, depressed, and anxiety-ridden parents and children. So, and maybe we really need to think twice about the degree of priority we place on safety and well-being. There, I said it. It's a hot take, but it's the truth. And you speak to anybody in development, anybody, I speak to some really great people who have done some great research on this, and, they'll be the first to say it, man. It's really a big, big problem. I got to be at every game. I've got to be at every practice. I've got to leave work early. I've got, I'll do anything for my kid. Well, you know what? That's a dangerous mentality, because that's the mentality that gives you get your $450,000 and pay it to some guy and get your kid into USC, and now you're facing federal charges of fraud and corruption. Those people are motivated by the same sentiment. They want what's best for their kid. Who can blame them? Well, when you start saying, I'll do anything, and anything becomes something you can do, guess what? You do it. And that's why those people are facing a real problem, is because they wanted to do what's best for their kids too. But in reality, they had no throttle, and they think there's no limit. And when there's no limit, nothing good can happen, even if it's how much you want to provide for your kid.
I agree with everything you said, because I see it in my own life with my own kids. You know, when I get phone calls from my daughter about you know, something with her car, and she's panicking because she doesn't know. I'm like, whoa, slow down, all right? You need to take care of this. You need to take your car in. You need to explain to the mechanic what's going on with your car, you know? And she's like, well, I can't do that. You know, Mom and Dad can't do it for you forever, right? And those are the types of things that I come across. But then, you know, what happens is I have to walk her through it. But, you know, it eventually gets
You
done.
can't escape the culture.
No,
you can't escape the culture. Unless you're living, you with a tribe of people that are, absent from the culture. When people say, well, my kid really is independent. No, they're not. They can't be, because they live in a culture that doesn't allow them to be. Yeah. It doesn't.
In school, it doesn't allow them from, wherever they go. It doesn't matter. If they're in high school, if they're in college, whatever it is, they're dependent on those around them. Their parents, their teachers,
even if
their
you're
friends.
even if you're the most, whatever parent in the world, and you're not going to let your kid be that. There are so many other influences that render your kid a dependent, that render your kid helpless, that you can't possibly overcome that. Every kid, I see it in all my students, in all my players. They all exhibit the same characteristics. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's troubling is they suffer from low self-esteem. For all of this care, it doesn't result in higher self-esteem. It results in lower self-esteem. And that's something we need to start taking note of, because that's our fault, not theirs.
Well, Renee, what do you mean? You didn't want to drive 6 hours to go change your daughter's tire? That you could probably have done
What a bad father you are, Renee.
You could have drove 6 hours for something she could have done in 15 minutes if, she, put her her heart to it and just started going. She could probably get it done in 15 minutes. All right, so enough about Izzo. Yeah, you do, Renee. I'm going to have to agree. All right, so moving on, Webbs. Let's talk a little bit about catching before we close this out tonight.
I'm catching right now. See, I'm catching.
I see that.
I'm catching.
Do you think any of your players, my players are at home doing that right now? Probably not. They're probably with their little thumbs going.
Right. Absolutely.
So, which is great, whatever, if that's what they want to do. But catching, how important is it at any level? And then let's get into some drills that you work with guys, at your level, and then some that maybe youth level guys can do to get better.
Well, I love catching, as you know. I think I spend more time over the last 3 years with a catcher's mitt in my hand. My small catcher's mitt that I use to train guys. I have that small, tiny catcher's mitt. Mm-hmm. Actually, it was labeled in 2017 Tiny Tommy because my catchers loved that catcher's mitt so much. So I'm fascinated with catching, and my observation is this. It's a lost art. Very few kids catch. Very few kids want to catch. It's the most important position, in my opinion, on the field as a player. Other pitchers I don't consider players, but I think that a catcher has as much influence on a game as anyone. And I just think that if I was gonna train a kid and he was 12 years old, he would learn how to catch, because you're invaluable if you could catch. If you could get behind the plate and you're an okay player, you become a star. Mm-hmm. If you hit 240 and you have no power and you play left field, you're one at bat away from being on the bench. If you take those same numbers and make yourself a catcher, you're a valuable part of the team. I don't know why more people don't catch. You're going to play a lot more if you could catch.
Yeah, and defensively, you'll have that advantage. Why do you think guys go out at the major league level and try to get that defensive catcher that can make a difference? Even if they don't hit, 300 every year or hit 30 home runs. They want that guy that can throw people out. They want that guy that can stop the ball.
There are 20 guys playing in the major leagues today, 20, who if they couldn't catch, couldn't play an A-ball. They couldn't play an A-ball.
They would be gone. And that's been a trend for a long time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, every team needs 2 or 3 catchers. Yeah. So if the second string catcher's the backup quarterback, you play 1.5 times a week. As long as you could catch and throw, nobody says you're too small or you're too slow if you're a catcher. Nobody. You could get behind the plate, catch, block, throw a little bit. You're invaluable. You're playing all the time.
And that goes at every level. The catching position is important. At the youth level, you can dominate.
Oh God!
If you have a good catcher,
change the game.
Yeah.
Change the game.
If you got a guy who can throw people out consistently, there won't be any of that rampant running that you see at the youth level. And if you got a guy that blocks the ball and can stop it from going to the backstop every other pitch, that drives me crazy when that happens.
Free bases, yes.
Yeah, because you're giving away free bases.
If I were you, if I had young kids. Like that 11, 12, 13. To me, it's all about being able to handle the ball. So whatever you could do to increase their ability, their dexterity, their hand-eye coordination, whatever you want to call it, you've got to do. So I have in my hand, this is the small ball, right?
Yep,
got that,
those.
Right?
Yep.
And then this is the large tennis ball. Right? Yep. I do a lot of work with tennis balls. A lot of blocking work with tennis balls, right? It's just easier. So no glove. Right, no glove. Yep. What you could do is I would take 2 tennis balls, right, and I would just throw. I would have one in my right hand, one in my left hand, and just kind of back and forth as I'm catching them. As he's catching it, he's got to get it back to me, right? I'm throwing the next one, so it's almost like he's catching, right? Your exchange is working. You're learning about how to have soft hands, how to be firm with the ball, and still have soft hands, right? And the other thing that I would do is I would have my kid take the tennis ball or the small ball, depending upon the size of his hands, and I would tie up these 2 fingers and catch everything with what you really catch with, which is these 3 fingers. So now I'm going to toss my kid balls one after the other, right, that he has to catch in these 3 fingers, just like it's the pocket of the glove. That's a great drill just to learn that manual dexterity. Then one thing I would have guys do is take this ball, get as close to the wall as possible, and throw it off the wall repeatedly. You can't do this enough to get the feeling of the ball coming out of your glove and into your hands. Those would be 3 things that I would do. Yes.
The transfer is
and then I would
key.
Then I would take a bag of tennis balls, no chest protector, no mask, and I would have them work on blocking balls.
Sure.
And I wouldn't get technical with it. What I would do is I would make it fun. With younger kids, even with some of the older kids, I'll take a Frisbee and put it on home plate, and they've got to make the ball hit their chest and fall into the Frisbee. So they've got to really soften it.
Frisbee's upside down then. Yeah.
Right,
so it catches the ball.
Right.
It'll sit in the ball.
Right.
It'll sit in the Frisbee.
Exactly. And now you make a competition out of it. Maybe you have 2 catches. Let's see, I'm going to throw you 10 balls if you could do it. And he doesn't have to work on technique. He's got to work on results, which is really all that matters.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's fun.
Trying to deaden that ball and trying to get it right in front of
you.
you.
Very hard to do.
It is hard.
Very hard to do.
And, once you master that skill, though, you're invaluable. If you can do that, oh man. It's unreal what you can do.
There are really no more catches.
So I've done the tennis ball drill. I haven't placed the little ball in their hand, and I'm going to try that this week at some point.
Yeah.
Today I had
bottom 2 fingers, the weak fingers.
Yes.
The weak fingers.
Pinky and the ring finger. But I did today. I took out my pitching machine. I have an A-Tech, and I only use it for defense. People think I'm crazy. They're like, "You have a pitching machine you only use for defense?" I go, "Yeah, I don't like kids hitting off the machine. I really don't. I'd rather them see it out of my hand. So I'll throw all day long. I'd rather see them see it come out of my hand." But the pitching machine, I put it out. I put it at about 60 feet, right? And I just crank it up, and I start slow, and I just have them sit back there with their mitt and just boom, right? And just give me little subtle moves. Boom. And I try to hit like right around the zone so they can catch it and just bring it back. Catch it, bring it back. Nice and subtle. I tell them if it's way out of the zone, don't catch it and rip it back into the zone. I said, we don't want to do that. We don't want to, because then the umpire will be like, yay, you know, they're not going to give you that. But I've got my catchers that they're so subtle and they're learning how to just frame the ball nice wherever it is. It's really fun to watch because last year they had no clue. They were really ripping the ball all from around, and now they're just sitting there, boom, 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 and they're catching everything. And then I crank it up. I'll make it faster. Boom. Then I put more, you know, a little bit more zip on it. And then what I'll do is I'll mix it up where I'll bounce one or two. And then they got to drop, you know. And then the next one will be right down the middle, and then boom. And then the next one I'll bounce it again. Then they got to drop. And again, you know, try to get the ball in front of them. But it's a pretty cool drill. And I have one of my catchers today. He goes, give me everything you got. He said, crank the machine all the way up. I told him I did. I didn't. I only put it to about 7, 8. But
that's good. That's good. And you know, you're right. I think you do see development very, very quickly in young kids because, you know, they're young and you really start to see market improvement in them right away. And I'll tell you, I have another observation that's really sad because this nutty instruction tsunami that we're going through where every kid thinks he's got to do it perfectly.
Yeah, no.
And here's what I'm seeing on a very high level. Guys are so obsessed with framing the ball. Please stop trying to frame the ball. All catchers, just catch the ball.
Dude, that's it.
So they're so obsessed with framing, Ken, they'll whiff because they're trying to frame it before they get it. You know, they're trying to, you know, juke the umpire. Dude, catch the ball. If you don't catch it, it's not going to be a strike, and it's now second and third.
Yeah. And here's what I said to my catchers today. I said, look, guys, your first job it's in the name of your position.
Yeah, it might be a hint. It's a hint.
Catcher, catch it. That's what I told him. I said, it's in the name of your position. Catch the ball. That's why we're here. That's what I want. All right? And then when we start to get good at what we're doing, then we can start little subtle things to be better. Right? All this reaching around, I see it from the catchers all throughout the league, and it drives me insane. I'm like, oh, my God. And, you know, the umpires, they see it, you know. But, again, the umpires aren't great either. So, you know. Whatever. But anyway.
So I'm sorry. Renee said he went to what did he say? A talk from Doug Sinella.
Yes,
he's like listening to me. He says, first of all, to be mentioned in the same sentence as Doug Sinella's. Of all the people I've ever known in baseball, I don't know of anybody I have more respect for than Doug. So I find that to be the supreme compliment. And Doug gets it, and he knows what he's doing. And I agree. It's sad that only about 15 coaches go to something like that when every coach in New Jersey should be at something that Doug is at. But it just goes to show you, you know, this snake oil is very attractive. Very, very attractive.
So Leo Mazzoni and you, Renee said.
Oh, well, how about that? Even better. Wow.
Even better, right? Leo Mazzoni, that's pretty good. But
there you go. I mean, you know, all Leo Mazzoni did was, like, be the pitching coach for 3 Hall of Fame pitchers. You know, that's all he did.
Nothing.
And one of them is one of the 5 greatest pitchers of all time. But other than that, I mean, what does he know?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really loving the catching too. I'm seeing really great improvements from they're 13, so they had, you know, you can see big improvements from these kids. You know, when you get a little bit older and you get, you know, experienced catchers at the college level, you know, they've learned some bad habits, and you've got to work with them to break those bad habits. It can be difficult, you know, to work through that sometimes.
I'm dismayed when I see kids the age of kids you're working with, and people are working on like mechanical stuff, and they're using this vocabulary that's for like a 19-year-old or a pro player, when it really should be about, like, when that kid says turn it up, now you know you got him.
Yeah.
It's working because he's hooked. That's what kids need. They want to make it fun and competitive and learn at the same time. You got to make them learn without them knowing they're learning.
Yeah, you got to make it fun. And then
right.
while they're having fun, they're learning, and they don't even know that it's going on. So
right. If they think they're learning, they'll get turned off.
Yeah.
It's like school. They don't want to be in school. They want to be on the field playing. So that's a good job by you.
Today, I will say that person's parent, my catcher's parent, sent me a text today and said, the boys, because they're twins, she has twin boys on my team, she sent me a text and said, the boys said they had so much fun today at practice. I said, okay, well, that's my goal, because if it ain't fun, why are we doing it?
There you go.
But that's a good sign. I'm getting a text like that from one of the parents. And I also will say this, keeping my roster where it's at 13 players and not having 17, 18 guys on my team. And, having guys that I've worked with before in past seasons, and they know the routine, they know what to do, they catch the ball, they're throwing the ball, they know they're getting the fundamentals now. And now it's more fun because you can get more done. You're not chasing balls all the time. You're not waiting for the one guy who keeps missing the ball every time it's his turn. So things are starting to happen, and they're starting to happen, which makes it more fun for everybody. Everybody's not standing around waiting now. They're involved. They're doing something. They're moving. Right. Perpetual motion. They're moving from one thing to the next. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it. That's what. Yeah,
manageable numbers is big. Yeah. No matter how good you are, if you have too many guys, it's going to be tedious.
Yeah, you can't cover all the bases, and then you want to try to, and then you try to force things, and then it gets.
And everybody suffers.
Yeah, and then it gets ridiculous. So.
No, I think you got it. Good job.
Yeah, I know, Victor Coco. The Facebook comments did not come through today for some reason, but I'm seeing them over here, right? Coming over here. Yeah, one of the guys I played in an adult league when I was 40, which was 10 years ago, Webbs. He's trying to recruit me for the 50 and older league now, since I'm going to be 50 this year. I'm not playing in that league. Yeah, I'm not playing in that league. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not playing. I can barely get out of bed some days. I'm not doing that. I can't even touch my toes anymore. Come on, man. Let's get that together.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say, like, I've always taken ground balls and shag fly balls to the outfield, but maybe it's just the guys are better, and these guys are really good or whatever. But I find myself olaying a lot
more than I used to.
BP, like that kind of okay. I'm gonna let that one go. I'm making believe that I really don't care, but it's more out of self-preservation. I don't want to wear one off the forearm. I don't need that at this stage of the game. Thank you very much.
So I'll tell one story and then we'll wrap this up. About 5 years ago, my son was in high school. It was his junior year when he was playing. I went out and was out with the guys fielding ground balls in the infield one day. And there was one hit up the middle. And, me just being me, I took off. And what's in my head? Like, I'm still 22. Here we go. Woo! And I dove for this ball, Tommy.
Oh, no.
And I got to it, and my glove got to it. But when I hit the ground, it was like,
oh, my God.
Whoo! And I couldn't breathe for like, I was like, oh. And then there's a 45-year-old dude diving up the middle for a ground ball. I was like, you know what? That's it. Last time. Never
our
again.
Coaches, these young coaches are always asking for advice. And I said, listen, here's, you do this and whatever. And then I say, listen, do yourself a favor. Never get in the cage.
That's right.
Never go all out. If the ball's hit to you and it's one hop and it comes up to you, want to catch, those are the ones you feel. Because I tell you what, no matter how good you were, it could only end bad.
Yep.
It could only end bad.
That was it, man. I stood up. I walked back. I walked out to the outfield, and I just sat there. And I was just trying to get my breath back. I was like, oh, my God, I can't believe I just did that. What was I thinking? And, I wasn't thinking. I just went, and I was trying to show him, because I was trying to say to him, look, you guys need to dive for balls more. Be more aggressive when you're going after balls. Yeah. And then it was hit, and I was like, here's my chance to show him. Woo!
Oh, God.
And, oh, man, I hit the ground, and I was like, oh, that's enough of that.
What a feeling. What a feeling that is.
Yeah, not doing that again. Nope.
Never again.
No, that was it. That was the last time I dove for anything, and I'll never dive for anything ever again. Nothing.
I juggle. I juggle as
yes.
well. It's, you can juggle. Okay.
Juggle. I'll flip my fungo around now.
Right.
Stuff like that. I'll be like,
you could look really good doing that. You could look like, wow. He must have been pretty good.
I'll tell you, I was pretty good because I got the lean on the fungo down to a science.
Yeah.
I got that lean down. That's that's pretty good lean. And just leaning on it, and boom, all your weight's on it. If somebody came up and kicked it out, you would fall right over. But but I got that fungo lean down. I'm pretty good at that.
Oh God.
So yes, Renee, it was like a building collapsing. All right, let's wrap this up, man.
All right.
Thank you for joining us, everybody out there. Tommy, thanks for coming on.
Thanks,
as usual, it was a lot of fun. We talked about a lot. We ran through a lot of stuff. It was really cool. So, again, thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next Sunday night. I'm going to try and get Craig Wilson on. I was trying to get him this week, but things didn't work out. I will hopefully get him next week, and we'll be able to talk to a guy who played with Ozzie Smith and see what that was like. Because I would tell you what, I would have loved to have played with Ozzie Smith for 5 seconds just to watch that guy. Oh my God, he was my favorite, and I know he was your favorite too.
Best I ever saw.
Yep. All right, man. I will see you next week, Tommy. Have a great one.
Love you.
All right, love you too.
Take care.
See you guys. Take care.